doing? So welcome to this week's One Image My Edit, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to create this royal blue effect to your images. So this is something that you can use on your images. It's quite a simple process. It's mainly color manipulation and contrast manipulation, but it's quite easy to do. So I'm going to reset this and show you how it's done. Okay, so let's jump in then. So the first thing I'm going to do is just address the color temperature. I'm going to bring this down a little bit, and I'm going to also bring the tint down a little bit as well. So -5, -10. I want to have quite a dark feel to this, so I'm just going to bring the exposure down as well. -0.10. So again, it's just a little bit. Let's boost the contrast because I'm a big fan of high contrasting images, so let's go to about 20, and I'm going to bring the highlights down, so just a little bit, -10, and then the shadows I'm going to bring them up a little bit. So it's a very basic edit on the basic module there. It's quite simple, and it's just all we're doing is just flattening the image. So I'm going to bring the whites up to +10 and bring the blacks down to -15. There we go. So if you just look at that, you can see that I've completely flattened that image there, and we've just got a bit of a better starting point to then manipulate all the other colors. So let's while we're here in the present section, let's add some clarity. So I'm going to go up to about 20, and also I'm going to add a little bit of dehaze in there as well, so +15. And let's have a look at the vibrance and saturation. So I'm going to bring the saturation down, and I'm going to go to -20. Now, depending on your image and depending on how bright your subject is, you may need to bring that further down. I could, if I wanted to, push this a little bit further, but you can see it starts to take away that lovely color there, and I want to try and maintain that color a little bit, as much as I can. So let's just boost the vibrance up to +10, and that's going to help us do that, okay? Right, so moving on to the tone curve, I just want to create quite a heavy not a heavy S curve, quite a strong S curve, but I'm also going to matte off the whites and the blacks, which is going to help us. So let's just start on the blacks, and let's just bring this down. There we go. And then let's just bring the blacks up so we start matting them off. So think about there's quite good for this shot. And then up here where the whites are, the highlights, I'm going to push that up a little bit and just bring these mid-tones to around there. So we've got a little bit of a curve, you can see it there. And then I'm just going to bring these whites down to about there. So you can see we've got a very kind of sharp line, and then it comes tailors off, and you can see what that does. It just really helps the whole image, matting them blacks off and whites. Adds a lot more contrast to it as well, and that's what kind of sets off the mood of the shot, if that makes sense. That helps you with the atmospheric side of it. So let's jump to the HSL panel, and I'm going to start off let's start off on the hues. So there's not much to do in here. I'm just going to bring this orange down to around -10. Okay, and aqua, I'm going to bring that down to -30. I'm going to do the same with the blue as well. So it's around there, and that is pretty much all I want to do for the hues. Just changing them oranges so it's a little bit warmer there, and the aqua and the blue, just bringing them down a little bit, just because I'm going to add some color grading, and that will help with them colors later on. So let's have a look at the saturation. So the saturation, I'm going to boost the orange up, try and maintain that lovely color, so about +40, that works. I'm going to bring the yellow down to -60, and that's just going to help take out a little bit of the vibrance of it. Okay, green I'm going to completely take away. You can see there on the background what that's doing. It's quite distracting, so I'm going to bring that all the way down to -100. And I'm going to do the same with the purple and with the magenta as well. That's looking pretty good. That's looking pretty good. So let's go to the luminance and let's just bring the orange down to -30 so we can just get a little bit of a little bit darker on that blue. And let's bring the blue down to -10 as well while we're here. Okay, that looks pretty good. So again, if we look at the actual colors, you can see what we've done there. So we're stripping away that yellow, sorry, that green, and we're bringing that saturation right down on that yellow. You can see that, and that's really helping us. So now what we need to do is come back in and add some color to this in the color grading panel. So let's start off on the shadows. So I'm going to start off on this and I'm going to add a hue of around 190, 195, around there. So let's have a look. Yeah, I think 190 is probably good. And then a saturation, I'm going to add about 25, 22 maybe. Yeah, 22 is probably a little bit better. So that looks good. Let's jump over to the highlights. And on the highlights, I'm going to add around 210. 210. That's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice color, around 210. Saturation of about 10. So it's just a hint of color. So I'm going to bring the saturation up and then just select the color, and you'll see which one I'm going for. There, so it's quite a nice blue, and the saturation of 10 that's enough just to bring it in and not be too overpowering. Okay, so let's sharpen the image a little bit. I'm going to move this up to around 30. That looks good. Radius of 1 pixel, detail 25. I don't want to push this too much. I think that's good. I'm going to leave it just so it sharpens the whole image. I'm not going to go in and mask this one off. Okay. So noise reduction. We want to add some noise reduction because we are stripping these colors. We're moving them around quite a bit. So let's go to 45 on the luminance. Keep detail at 50, and I think the contrast can stay the same. The color, I would push this quite high actually to 50. Keep everything else at 50 just because of the amount of different colors we're manipulating. So it really does help stop any noise creeping in. So let's add a vignette to this because I think that's going to really help the image. So I'm going to bring this down to -30, and I'm going to feather this off as well quite high. So I'm going to go, so look, +70 I think I've done on the last one. Yeah, and I think that works really well. That gives it a nice feathered finish. So if we scroll back up to the top, I think now what we can do as well is change the color profile and get something so that it's a little bit more creative. So we click on the profile where it says color and then just select browse. We can see here we've got the different artistic ones. So I think originally I went with artistic 2, but I think for this I would probably still stick with the artistic side, or the vintage is quite nice as well. So you can kind of create your own style. I think the vintage 2 is quite nice actually as well. Works really well on this. Or we can go artistic 2. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with the vintage one. I think that looks quite nice. Let's just bring this down to, let's have a look. Let's bring this down to -50. It's not actually, but yeah, -50. Let's keep it onto about there. I think that looks quite nice. Artistic 8 looks quite nice. So there's a few options here, so you can really go to town on how you want your image to look. I actually quite like the artistic 8. I've changed my mind. So let's bring that down. Yeah, that's quite good. Okay, so let's just click on close, and that will give us our new profile, and you can fine tune it up here. So let's have a look at that. I'm going to press the Y key, and you can see there's the before and after. The actual the original image that I showed you was that you see is a little bit more blue in it. So that's just to do with this this color profile here. So you can play around with that as much as you want and get different looks. And I think with this as well, what I would do is come up to here and I would have a radial gradient. Okay, just plonk that on the face there. Make sure it's nice and soft, so it's pushed all the way up. So it's like that. You can see it's feathered. Take the overlay off, and I would just bring the shadows up a little bit. There we go. So plus 20, and I'm going to push the exposure up by about plus 0.1. So plus 0.10 rather. There we go. Just press enter on that, and that's just brought out the face for us a little bit. So there you have it. That's how you do it. That's how you create this lovely sort of artistic blue look to your images, and this can be used on a number of things. It doesn't have to be specifically for animals, but I just like this particular image with that lovely orange color. You can go ahead and fine tune this. You can start bringing saturations down. You can push them back up a little bit, and you're going to get some really different vibes to your image. And the other way, like I said earlier, is just changing these profiles up here, and you can get some really nice different effects. But I think that one works pretty well, the artistic number 8, but you can decide what works best for your image. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.